Hey, this is a Writing on the Wall, and I'm Jennifer Roberts. And I've been thinking all day today after receiving a message from a friend in the land of Oz, because giving me a heads up as to YouTube not liking the country's usual name. So, as they said, in the land of kangaroos, instead of beginning with an A, ending with an A. That's a new restriction on YouTube. So all day today I've had that place, the people within it on my mind, and it's felt really surreal. I actually this morning went into a remote view type of trance, and I felt the tension. That's where the surreal feelings set in. The reality of how far it's actually gone over there. Now I know from just pulling cards for myself for that place and the people within it, and in daily readings, which thank you, I love you to those ones over there that have messaged regularly to say they've been hitting the nail on the head, and thank you for the heads up. That means a lot that you'd even take the time out to say thank you for what you're going through right now. And I realized what they're doing, is that they're absolutely taking snippets of what we've been doing over here, protest, peaceful protest, and edit, delete, cut, stitch together this narrative that the people actually got to the point of violence. And this is very clever, because I realize in this country, peaceful protests have been done en masse in millions. And by them putting out this edited and stitched footage, it makes a difference in the minds of the UK, in that it feels like it's going to be our choice when we get to the point that the land of Oz is in now. If the feeling of choice gives a feeling of time, it gives a feeling of it's going to be our choice. So there's still time. We're so many steps sort of behind the land of Oz. So we're going to know when it's our choice, it's our time. This reversal with this propaganda is really powerful. But so many steps in the UK have been taken while peaceful protest has been happening. And while the land of Oz, it has been the blueprint, has been the testing ground, the prison country. We're not as many steps behind them as we think. Because we're still thinking on some level, it must be on some level that we're still thinking that this is a separate takeover, that each country is trying to take over itself. When in actual fact, they have moved beyond the puppets, the leaders of the shadowy beings behind them. They've moved beyond, they've had this new directive that this is a all over takeover with different litmus tests being put on the collective in different places. And yes, some countries' leaders aren't a part of it. They're still vying for their own power very individually. But the chessboard, the big countries that are being played, the big areas that are being played, those shadowy beings, and know that if they can play those whole areas right, then those even independent, countries, and I'm not saying the leaders are any good, I'm just saying, they're in it for themselves still. They haven't quite bought that narrative of a one world order. They know that they can swallow them up pretty good if they can play these big areas right. And so it's not that we're actually steps behind Australia. It's not like we are actually way behind in that choice that has been put out through the propaganda. It is that the land of Oz is the testing ground, and what happens after tests. We just have to look at the infusion in that. What happens after tests is that they're rolled out quickly because the steps are in place, the tests have been done, the results have been noted. So you can roll that out overnight in these other areas that are being played. But still in the UK in particularly, I think there's still this embedded thought pattern that we might find damaging in the future, in that we are separate enough from this. And it will be boom, because once the tests are done and the results are in it, they can be rolled out. This isn't we're playing two different board games. The aware people in the collective are playing a board game of many different opponents because divisions have been successfully made. So even parts of the collective on the collective. And then this chessboard that is being played is sort of hooked in, jacked into the game that the collective in the UK are playing. So it has a feed-in effect, but we're still not quite grasping the borderless, countryless oneness of what is happening right now. So all of a sudden, this board game becomes much more apparent that it was separate. When the land of Oz and the measurements that are being taken there is tested out in its completeness and fed in to the other parts of the machine. It's not the head of the snake, and it's not the head of the snake. So I do stand with the people over there, and I've always cared about that Australia. I know a lot of my granddad's relatives got sent over there during the wars, and I don't have any contact with them. It went dark, I think, that part of the family line. So I always hope that they've done well, and I always hope that the offspring that has ultimately been born into the world is doing well. So there is that DNA connection, and I've always known that. My mum always made sure, I knew the family history. And actually, my mum's so compassionate in that the way she taught me that as a child, that there's no, it doesn't matter that they're distant relatives. It doesn't matter that they're, not known by name. They're not forgotten. And so whoever my relatives are actually over there, but from a DNA level, I send you absolute protection and love and strength. But then it's more than that. It's a connection to the land and the ancientness of the original peoples. Oh, it's so bad over there. They're being put into cells, and those cells are their home. It really is the rollout of what would have been the prisons beforehand. Literally taking over the buildings that people are paying to live in, continuing making those people to pay for their own cells, which are their homes. Prison country. And I find it so sad for the originals, Aboriginals. I find it so sad for the people that have gone to that land, been born in that land since the UK, the Crown tortured it. Went over there and, treated the peoples there like shit. Like they weren't human, whatever human is. Let's say even better, like they weren't just living beings that deserved respect enough to get to know them, respect enough to imagine if the coming together of different peoples. Imagine if the coming together, the discovery, the sailing of the seas and coming across a beautiful, very different land, different climate, different plant life, just exotic in its difference to where you've come from. And even having the experience as the most beautiful experience, in that you even see a being that looks very bodily shape, function like as you, but they have a completely different color skin. Slightly different facial features. Imagine if that kind of discovery or connection had been exciting, had been with reverence, had been to get to know the culture, to get to know the ways that they live, and get to know each other's wisdoms and share those stories, those sagas, those ways of doing things. That would be so beautiful. That would have made this place, as I feel it once was, so divine. And nature itself has stayed beautiful and is my concept of divine. So goodness knows what that other level of divine looks and feels like. How that other level of divine would envelop you in like euphoria in comparison. And whilst I know there'll always be differences in what you would call morals and ethics, and you could still have some assholes in that scenario. But today I still came back to how did it get that meeting, that greeting, that discovery wasn't like that. And it has to be that this level of giving over control of being in charge of self happened. It happened enough on a wide enough scale, layer by layer, year by year, decade by decade, century by century. More and more and more, it happened in a drastic way, and that I asked myself today, during this day-long meditation, I asked myself today, how much authority do you actually take of self, Jennifer? Where do you not have authority in your reality or within the different layers of you? Do you take enough authority? And I do. I was practiced in that by my mum, of taking authority over myself, over my space, any spirits that were visiting, that my space was my space, and behave, or I'm not going to get rid of you. I've got the power to do that. I'm going to push you out of my space. So as a child, even, I know that. So as far as maybe if you were leveling it, I take a lot of authority over my space. And by that, I mean even my auric field, wherever my consciousness is. I take authority over the space of my soul because I feel things there sometimes. So that's quite a high level of authority, I think. Still though, I still give away too much authority. Because I do find myself redressing myself sometimes. And so that's where it's got to start in self, of really asking the right questions. Because after I thought about Australia, it got a bit overwhelming, and I was placing protection over the people and pushing my space around theirs. But still it got to the point where it was overwhelming enough to say, yeah, this is where I have to connect with brothers and sisters, because I haven't got the singular power to actually do much. Because they've gone at them full force. So it became a little bit overwhelming in that, well, shit, I can't do it. And, you know, that's where I had to drill it in to bring that back to say, okay, so where do I take authority of this? Asking myself, okay, you can only sort of push your energy into your wide space and push your aura out even wider, you know, exercise your aura. And that hopefully has a knock-on effect of other auras bouncing into it and asking that question. Because to take authority back, we're fighting to have more authority over our lives. We're fighting to say, you can't make those decisions for me or for my children. But, you know, we're still lacking the authority to go further, to say, you know, you actually don't represent us. You actually, you know, still asking government to just stop the thing that is making us uncomfortable without going to the head of the snake and taking the power back and asking the right question to the right people, and actually having the opportunity and taking the authority to not request but demand time paid for, to actually face-to-face speak to Boris and all the various people around him. And ask the right questions. Ask the questions where Fauci has been questioned over the infusion. Ask the right questions to say, so why are we taking something that was derived, and the same people that derived the cause made the cure? Is that not a conflict of interest? Is that not worrying? Because right now we're taking authority to the extent in the UK of asking for things, certain things to stop. You know, no passport, no such and such, and no lockdown. But that's not enough authority to actually have a real effect for us to become, instead of with Brexit leaving the European Union, which is a total farce because we're so controlled by the shadowy beings behind the banking system, still in the European Union, that's just such a facade that we're separate. But they do give us the idea as people to say, yeah, no, the people that are sitting in parliamentary seats right now obviously don't represent us as an individual peoples with culture, mixed culture, beautiful, yes, but lots of culture. So actually we're just going to take a big spacer, a big freaking fence, and we're just going to push it around you And then we're going to make these people actually be, actually be transparent as to, all right, why do you want to take this? Why were you pushing to take this in this direction? Yeah, you don't represent us. We are now like one of those independent countries. Chestnut. Leather. Because this is ridiculous. It is so obvious. It's so obviously just even a conflict of interest, even if you just look at it from that direction. Conflict of interest. So as far as the land of Oz, we're not that many steps behind. So we have got to jump those steps quickly to being obvious ourselves. Big old fence, big old spacer, ring it round and ask those questions, and actually allow some people that are very intelligent people have a chance to, you know, maybe get paid for what people would want them to get paid for. Because all this is, the crux of it is some inbred, spoilt beings being greedy, wanting all of the sweets. But even that is an illusion, I feel, you know, that when this is the one world order, it still is actually shadowy being factions behind a certain set of countries, but they are not as big even as, and I know this sounds crazy because they've got so much power, but not even as big as they would like us to think. That the world is a lot bigger. Well, this realm is a lot bigger. I think this realm is a huge, big petri dish, and there are other petri dishes around us. But they put the feeling out that they actually, so this is just, imagine it as kids, nasty, spoilt, inbred kids playing a game of trying to, they're playing Monopoly because they think they'll have even more chance to influence more independent countries than they would like us to think, with leaders who aren't part of their game because they're playing their own game. So I'm not saying that they're great. It's crazy. Kids wanting all the sweets. So this isn't a video of, oh, woe is me, because whatever happens, I'm going to make sure I live well, and I'm going to make sure my children live well, and continue to learn how to have that authority over self, all layers of self, auric field self. So it's not a woe is me and, you know, woe is the land of Oz and, you know, we've lost. This is actually more of a realization of actually where we are in this game. But actually also so being very real about that. And how expansive and powerful these powers are within these systems that they've built. I'm not stupid. But more a case of there's actually a lot more chances. We just have to play the right moves at the right time. And maybe have a second thought about just how many pieces we've allowed them to move via the representation of the Land of Oz being a testing ground, not a rollout ground, just a litmus testing ground of ways of power, ways of control, ways of violence and abuse, and ways of profit. Profit, profit, profit. So yeah, the prophecies have been to the profit of this conglomerate of power, of shadowy beings. Because people still have the same script in their mind that the light has won. And yes, eventually the light does win, but it's whether it's going to be in your lifetime, in your children's lifetime, I feel. To the point of the light not being just here and boom, and then it's done with one. No, because then life will still go on. So there'll be other layers of awakening all of the time. So it's not to say that the light hasn't won, no. It's to say that that would be inevitable, it seems, in the cycle, the snake eating its tail. But to say that the actions that we take can actually, you know, speed up that feeling of light, that leveling up of taking authority, that leveling up of contemplating a different cycle through a different lens. But they have very much used that prophet, that prophecy of the light has won, to have everybody believing in, for many, many years, the various different cycles and generations of life that have happened, that, you know, it's like, you know, that it has to happen in that game, that it is inevitable. Well, no. And I would quite like to experience a sensation of expansion of light in this realm, in my reality, and in this lifetime, and in my children's lifetime. That would be quite sweet. But we'll have to think bigger if we're going to do that. We have to think like we should be thinking, with that level of authority, to have enough people working together to say, actually, okay, we're just going to make sure through media, mainstream media, that everybody at least has all of the unbiased findings of corruption, of conflicts of interest, of profit, of the minutes of the meetings that have been taken during parliamentary gatherings, the ones behind the beautiful panelled wood rooms and doors. And then we're going to have enough to say, you don't actually represent us. Sorry. That would be fan-fucking-tastic. Be fantastic. So that's the rambling of the meditation of today with Australia, whilst doing various other things. So I'm gonna try and get another video out. I don't know whether it'll be just another rambling of another meditation. And I'm saying meditation because I am experiencing excessive amount of time compared to even the large amount of time, to be quite honest, but excessive amount of time of the kind of body and consciousness separation that I do when I'm lying down and going out of body. But that happening on a day-to-day taking care of business level. Whilst I'm taking care of business, I feel myself stepping out of the frame and stepping out of the picture, seeing the frame, then seeing the wall, then seeing the house, then seeing the sky, you know, that kind of like, just have a bigger, come out of the body, let the body wash the dishes, let the body make the wands, let the body do that, because the body in of itself is a beautiful living organism. Let that do that, while this consciousness, you know, expands out and has a wider look at what's going on around it and within it. And so there has been various days where I've stepped away, and it's been like a day-long meditation process. And I think a lot of you are experiencing this. I think a lot of you are sort of feeling this and doing this on a heightened level, because I do feel other consciousnesses doing it more, which is cool. Some very vivid and exciting revelations have happened during this time, and it's not on a lesser basis, it's on this bigger basis. It's a bit like coming into yourself of you know, when you have that partner who really matches your sexual frequency, and you've been single for many years, and then you know, you find this partner who you both really do match in that kind of frequency, and you know, it's very often that good feeling. That's what it's like. So, you know, love your consciousness, love your body, love your electricity within those nerve pathways. You know, think of all of the layers of self, and put love in there for sure. And that's where you find your peace in any chaos. Injecting it through all layers of self. Injecting it. Why not do the opposite? Yeah. We are where we are. And I want to say, before I go, regardless of the external chaos and what is going on, I have witnessed and experienced some of the biggest camaraderie. I've witnessed the amount of increased love for strangers coming together. I've heard the most awesome conversations. I've had more spiritual conversations with more people than I have ever before. You know, I would get so excited before when I would connect with somebody and be able to speak with them on that level, you know, that world that I'm in. But it's a daily thing now. It's a daily thing. People coming of all walks of life, coming into more aspects of themselves through these layers of what we would call spirituality. And having that widened look from further afield of themselves and the life around them. And that is awesome. It's awesome. And being able to connect around it. So regardless of where we are as well, and regardless of where we will be, people that you can resonate like that with are awesome. And we're actually going to find that love and that grit and that reverence for each other wherever we end up. So that is already a seed that was sown and has grown really quickly, and is a beautiful, fruitful organism with many individuals within it that have connected around the world. So, you know, that's pretty breathtaking and pretty mind-blowing. And I think it helps you then, it has a knock-on effect if you've already been in this spirituality and taken a wider look, using more senses, then it feeds you, it energizes you, and it reminds you of things that you've maybe forgotten you used to do, or it's connected you in, it's plugged you in more. And so that's mind-blowing, and it's voltage to me. I love it. I love seeing it. I love just stepping back and looking at the people talking and asking questions and wanting to do energy work, wanting to know how to start taking authority over themselves spiritually. Those conversations have gone up here. They get crazy levels of those kinds of conversations, and that wasn't here before, not on the level that it is and the amount that it is right now. No way. No way. And so though that aspect of where we are maybe more quiet in the collective's minds, because, you know, propaganda is trying its damnedest to not let the many know about this beautiful thing that has happened. You know, they're making as much noise as they can. From that aspect, actually, they're not winning as much as they'd like to. They're not winning as much as they'd like to, because people from around the world are still hooked in, are still finding a way to get the message across. And that is brilliant. So I've said I'll go a few times, I'm sure, but to us, nearly said it, the land of Oz. We love you and stand with you. And I know there are many, many in the UK speaking out and making noise regarding where you are at. And I'm one of them. And I won't stop. I won't stop. And the many that I see and hear here will not stop. Check out, I think it's Resistance GB, the channel on YouTube. They are doing a fantastic thing by going to schools and making noise and making sure that there's videos out there to show you that there are many making noise on your behalf as well, with the posters, with their voices. So you're not forgotten, no matter how much the powers that be there try to make you feel alone and very separated from the rest of us. You're not here and not here and not here, and not in spirit either. You are at the front of our minds, very much so. So we love you. Kick ass, take their names, and that love will continue to the land of Oz.